Hello, I'm Amber O'Neill Johnston with heritagemom.com, and I'm super excited to be chatting with a special guest today. I have Claudia Walker from the ABCs of HBCUs. And a couple years ago on Instagram, I saw her account pop up and we communicated briefly because I was so excited. So for those of you that don't know, an HBCU is historically Black colleges and universities. And for those who have read my book, then you've read a little bit about my journey. But after high school, I attended Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida, also known as FAMU, the home of the Rattlers, and it changed my life. It literally changed the way I felt about myself in beautiful, positive ways. It changed the way that I interacted with the Black community in ways that I'm probably still, benefiting from now, and I can't even explain. For me, it was the first time ever that I had a Black teacher. So kindergarten through 12th grade, I had never had a Black teacher. My parents were both principals in my district, but I didn't go to their schools. And in most cases, I had never had a Black student in any of my classes, not any academic classes. There weren't enough of us in elementary school to be more than one to a homeroom. In high school, maybe in lunch and gym. My cousin was in orchestra with me, but for the most part, that was not an experience that I had. And I knew that I wanted it. Even as a teenager. And so I want that for my kids. Of course, they can choose what they'd like, but in our home, we talk about HBCUs a lot. So the idea that young children would learn about them from early on intrigued me. And so, Claudia, I would love to find out what was behind this project. Like, why did you do this?
Well, Amber, first, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the work that you do. And this project, creating my first book, The ABCs of HBCUs, was really a labor of love. I attended Spelman College, and our stories really mirror each other in a lot of ways. Although Spelman wasn't the first time that I had Black students in my classroom or the first time that I had a Black teacher, it was the first time that I felt a genuine sense of acceptance and approval and affirmation. And my parents also were educators. My father was a principal. My mom became a principal once I went away to college. But education was really valued in our home. And because my parents were constantly trying to find, the best schools for me and really prepare me, oftentimes in the neighborhood that I lived in the community that I went to school in, it meant that I was one of very few Black students. And so my mom attended an HBCU. And I think that that was probably one of the main reasons why I attended, because at the high school that I went to, HBCUs weren't talked about. They weren't heralded as a viable option for, talented students. And so if it hadn't been for my mom and like a different world, I probably wouldn't have even considered an HBCU. And so I went on a Black college tour, really fell in love with Spelman's campus. And when I moved back to California after having worked in finance and just living, my best young adult life, I moved back and I started teaching. And I realized that many of my students did not have that experience of having a parent who attended an HBCU. They didn't have counselors who were able to talk to them about how life-changing an HBCU experience could be. And so I really wanted to take the opportunity to share HBCUs with my students and with my own children. And so that's why I chose to create the book. Prior to that, I would take these annual trips to Atlanta with my kids. At the time, I only had 2 children. And I would, really, really excited about always making a point to take my daughter to Spelman's campus, and we'd go and we visit the bookstore and we get swag. But then we'd come back home to California where there are no HBCUs. And I felt like, okay, we had this experience one day out of, the year, but that's really not enough to keep her going and to keep her excited about Black college culture, especially when teachers in her school and her friends aren't really talking about it. And so I figured that a lot of other families were probably facing the same challenges. And even if they weren't, even if, because I do have a lot of customers who, live in areas where their children see a lot of Black excellence and they get to go to HBCU homecomings. but they weren't able to really encapsulate that experience in a book, right? And so I wanted to create opportunities for parents and educators to really engage and talk to young people about the value of a Black college experience. And that's why I created the book.
Man, I can't. I mean, right now I'm like, my face is like very calm, but inside as you're talking, I'm like, yes, yes. I mean, even down to literally when I'm telling my story in my book, I talk about how I would sit at home and watch A Different World and say to myself, I'm going to do that. Like, I want to see what that feels like. And even though it was a fictional show, there was something about it that I knew that I would be missing out on if I never had that experience. So I just think that's so funny. And my older sister and brother also went to FAMU. And so you talk about your mom. And I think that that's something that I've heard from so many people. Like, if you had someone in your life who could speak to you about their experience and the value, it's almost like it's been word of mouth. And that's what I love so much about your book. Like, word of mouth is great, but you like you put words behind it and gave us imagery and something to hold on to, something tangible that's more than just this passed down word of mouth that a child may or may not get depending on the family they're in. And you're helping teachers and parents have a tool that they can use to celebrate these schools. So it was the same with me in high school. When I said I was going to FAMU, people were like, what is FAMU? Like no one they were saying it wrong. They never heard of it. And there was definitely a message I received that I would be lowering my standards by attending an HBCU, beyond just the shock that no one had ever heard of this school, the idea that I would pass up opportunities to go to an Ivy League school or a top tier school to like downgrade to an HBCU. And that idea of them not being celebrated, and it's like the biggest joke I've ever heard, because I see nothing, even now with my classmates who came out of school. It seems like every time I get on social media or read articles or books, I'm just like mind blown.
Right. What are we doing now? Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like mind blown. And so it's amazing to me that this type of message is not coming out to our children. Like, hey, we have people who are graduating from these schools, and let alone you have your experience at school, which is something to talk about, but we have people that are graduating from these schools who are excelling in every single area, the arts, Hollywood, if that's your thing, performing arts, business, stock market, entrepreneurship, politics,
everything.
And I live in Atlanta. So I live outside of Atlanta. So, my homeschool group is full of your Spelman sisters, and taking the kids down to the campus and just that whole environment. It's like a culture. It's a subculture. And I just can't get over the fact that you took the time to document it for the perspective of children. So, okay. Do you have a copy you can hold up for us?
I do. So this is the book.
Okay.
And it is our hardcover book. And then we also have the coloring book.
Okay. Yeah, I see.
So one of the biggest pieces of feedback or criticism that I got is that, it's 28 pages, A to Z, I think it's 26. And so we didn't cover all 107 HBCUs. And so, people buy the book and they feel some type of way about maybe their institution not being included. And so between the coloring book and the hardcover book, all 107 HBCUs are included. And then because I am a teacher at heart, and during the summertime as a teacher and as a parent, I'm constantly trying to find ways to keep my kids stimulated, keep them learning, prevent the summer slide. And so I'm always looking for activity books. And I wanted to create an activity book that was really steeped in Black culture, and that gave kids an opportunity to go deeper in learning about Black colleges. And so we added to the ABCs at HBCUs series, and we have an activity book this is an elementary, an activity book that's geared toward elementary school students. We have another one coming out that's geared towards middle and high school students. And it, to me, is probably some of the best work that I've done because it talks about Black colleges, but it's really just a celebration of Black culture and education in general. I mean, you don't have to necessarily be interested in going to a Black college to learn about some of the things that are in the book. So just like you said that you can't go to an HBCU or even hear about HBCUs and not hear about grads that are really influential in politics and in the arts and in STEM and in medicine in every field. That's what the book covers. So it covers health and geography and world languages and STEM. And it's just an awesome way for children to engage in learning, but to see Black culture and Black characters front and center. And I think that when you look at the activity book market, that's it, there's a gap there, right? Where you don't really see it from this Black perspective. And so I'm really proud of the work that we've been doing in that space.
And I appreciate like that you can get like a hard copy of it, because to the extent that I have seen things, it's like printing off one sheet here, one
Yeah.
sheet there, and like parents have been like trying to gather and
All of
staple
it.
and three-hole punch and I mean, more power to, but time, right? And so I love that you've kind of put that all together. Now, I just caught a glimpse of maybe the subtitle of the activity book. Did it say from homecoming? What did it say?
Yeah, from homecoming to the halftime show.
Oh, come on.
That
That's
is, and our activity book for middle and high school is from the classroom to the quad. And
oh gosh.
so it's a lot of fun. And, I really think that it's going to give parents and educators another opportunity to really deepen the work for students of all cultures.
That is just, that's so good. I have, when you were talking about some of the criticism of the first original book not having all of the schools in it, the first thing I did was look,
Yeah, right? Exactly. That's what everyone does. It's so funny to see when we do our pop-up booths, people come and they just start going to a page and I'm like, what school are you looking for? And it's very real. It's real.
Yeah, you have that like feeling of pride. I mean, and it's there's two layers, right? Because I feel excited about anything related to any HBCU first and foremost. But then when I see my alma mater in something, or my colors or whatever, there's like this extra level of excitement. So I love that between the two books, you have included all of them. So tell us a little bit about like, where do you see, I know you've been really busy, so I don't want you to to like, what's coming up next? And you're like, Amber, I just did all this stuff. But do you have ideas for things coming up next that you want to share? Or do you have a vision for where you see this going? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I have so many plans for HBCU prep school. Each of the books that we've been coming up with, we create a series around. So there's a book, there are activity books, there's apparel. We are coming out, our next big projects. I just finished a stock market class for kids, which was a ton of fun. And they really kept me on my toes during the summer. So that's been fun. And the two big projects that we have coming up, in addition to releasing the activity book for the middle and high school set, we have a flashcard line. And so I'm not sure if we have downloadable flashcards, which are like ABC flashcards for each HBCU. And again, one of the comments that we get is like, do you have these in hard? Like, can we just pay you to send a box of flashcards? Well, we are coming up with a line of HBCU icon flashcards. So think Black History flashcards, but the characters are all grads of HBCUs. And so that's just another way that we are putting front and center the incredible work that so many alum of HBCUs have done. And oftentimes they are pioneers in their work. And so I'm excited about that. Another project that we have coming out is a puzzle line. So we have puzzles coming out that, again, just really amplify and highlight the work that's being done at HBCUs and just in Black culture in general. So I really see the brand as this um, one-stop education slash we're really a multimedia education company, but we try to meet the needs of different learners in different ways. So for one kid it could be through the artwork in the book, for another child it could be the prose from the book, another kid may love coloring books, someone else might like activity books, maybe you want to wear apparel or you want to play with a puzzle, but there're just a lot of different touch points that we are using to engage our young learners. And so that's been a lot of fun.
Oh, puzzles. Goodness, my family, we're puzzle lovers. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
you're
yes.
making me light up with that. So, and it's very difficult to find representative puzzles.
Right.
Very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So I have even been known to make some of my own with like a blank white puzzle and trying to put stuff on there and break it apart for my kids when they were younger. So
Wow.
I appreciate that. Well, you have a fan in Heritage Mom, and I will be linking to this post with all of the things we talked about today. I would love for you or Brian to send me links when the new stuff that isn't out yet, when it comes out, and I'll add it. I'll update this post because
Oh,
it'll
thank
sit
you.
here on heritagemom.com. And so you guys, if you do not have the book, please go out and get the ABCs of HBCUs. I'll link to it, and follow them on social media. What's your Instagram handle?
Yeah, we are HBCU Prep School.
Okay. Are you on Facebook?
Yes, we are. Same. So our
Okay.
handle, Twitter, Clubhouse, LinkedIn is the same across platforms.
Okay. All right. So follow them everywhere, wherever you hang out. And so you'll be notified when new things come out. And please support and like and spread and share the message, because if you want more things like this, we have to make sure the things that they're putting out are successful. So Claudia, thank you so much for coming on. I am like, I'm just pumped. I was like, I'm such a nerd. I feel so excited just hearing about what you're doing and just the overlap between our two stories, which we didn't know, we had no idea about until today. So thank you for your work, and please thank your family, because I know when you're working, that's taking time that would normally be theirs. And so they're sacrificing as well. So
For
thank
that.
you. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Likewise, thank you again, Amber, for all that you do as well.
Thank you.